Hey, what's up, guys? Jack from Half Chrome. You can see I'm recording on two different cameras right now. I've got the Foxeer uh, Box 2 right here, and I've got the RunCam Split 3S right there. They're two similar looking cameras meant to replace the GoPro Session. Now, do they? Should they? Or maybe should you pick up a Session refurbed, right? I've had some decent luck with refurbs in the past. Maybe that's the way to go. Now, right now, I'm recording both of these in their highest resolutions. The box is 4K, 30 frames a second, and then the Session over here is 1080p, 30 frames a second. So maybe right off the bat, you can tell there's some differences with these things, and let's take a closer look. Okay, so we have a little quick preview of these two cameras. I've got the Foxeer Box 2 on top and the RunCam 3S on the bottom. You can go ahead and take a look and judge for yourself. We'll come back to these two and do a more in-depth comparison of them in flight and in person. Okay, so like I said, I've got two box style cameras for you. This is the RunCam 3S. And this is the Foxeer Box 2. They look fairly similar, and they were both designed, like I said, to replace the GoPro Session. So the question is, should they? Let's start with, the specs. This one is capable of shooting up to 4K, 30 frames a second. It has 2.7K in Super View, as they call it. I wonder where they got that name. It will shoot 1080 in higher frame rates, as well as 720 in higher frame rates. But there's kind of a catch, so we'll talk about that in a second. This guy, again, it will max out at 1080, 30 frames a second, and yes, you can shoot in 720 at higher frame rates as well. So, they look similar. They're both box style. This one is definitely a little bit bigger. When I say this one, I'm talking about the Box 2 being a little bit larger than the RunCam 3S. Now, when it comes to quality, we'll show you the sensor on the Box 2 actually is really pretty darn good, but you have to be shooting in 4K. Otherwise, the software that they use just kind of does a poor job of really anything in lower resolution. So that's disappointing. But it is most definitely a better camera than your 3S here. We'll take a look at some stills here that I shot on a test target, and you can tell that the Box 2 here definitely it's sharper, it's clearer, the field of view is wider. There's a lot of good things going on with the Box 2, especially if you shoot in 4K. Now, honestly, I prefer to not shoot in 4K because of the giant file size, and I find 1080 is certainly good enough for me. But that's up to you. Other things that are different, we've got this little lid here. It's where we're going to store our SD card. We've got an HDMI out, and then this one will charge with a USB-C cable. So they've kind of upgraded that. They do say that this is splash protected, splash resistant, I should say, but who knows. In order to get this thing working, this is your power button. Long press on. A little longer, I guess. And it'll power on. You'll see the red light is on to connect to your phone, so you can see the app. We're going to hold this shutter button down. Once I turn it on, if I press it, one beep means it's recording. You can see it's flashing there. I beep again. Press again, and it beeps 3 times. That tells me that the recording stopped. Now, if I want to connect it to my phone, I hold this button down. Red light turns yellow, and that tells me that the Wi-Fi is on. Now, please, please do not put this on a drone with your Wi-Fi connected, or bad things will happen. All right, now we're in the app here. We'll take a look. Currently it's shooting ordinary mode, 4K 30 NTSC. The width is kind of unknown. We'll talk about that. We'll take a look in the app, and then it is shooting 16:9. Right, so you can see it does give you a real-time view. Now we've got our settings button up here. Right, our video resolution at the top, field of view. Let's take a look at that real quick. You can see I have 3 different field of views, all in Chinese. We've got basically this is wide, medium, and narrow. A little playing around with that. Wide is default. All right, so let's take a look at all of the resolutions that we have. Right, 4K, 2.7K, 2.7K, Super View, 2.5K, all the way down to, you know, if you're looking for slow-mo, we've got 720 at 240 frames a second. That is your highest frame rate. So those are just some other things. Cycle recording time, recording volume, wide dynamic range, auto low light, metering, whatever that is. These are kind of the settings that I didn't really mess with, other than I turned the sharpness down to low. I hate a high sharp image. Image rotate is actually rotate. The frequency is between 60 and 50. NTSC or PAL format, H.265 or 264. EIS is electronic image stabilization. Now I did a test with that on, so we'll get to that in just a minute. Quick captures if you want it to record when you turn it on. And then there's a handful of other things that you can see there. So the app, you know, not bad. I can also use it to snap pictures and check my settings. So that's the Foxeer Box 2 app for you. There you go. Okay, so to turn this on, it's just a press there. You hear beep, fires up. I had this on auto record, so it's recording already. This button here is how I turn on the Wi-Fi. So quick press, actually. Quick press will get you that blue light. Once that blue light is flashing, I'm going to go into my phone settings here. Alright, so now we're in the RunCam app. You can see the format is a little bit different. Settings up at the top here. Now these are not all the settings we have. Auto sync the time, wide dynamic range, date stamp off, auto shutdown, feedback beep, volume, loop recording, frequency 60, TV mode, NTSC, PAL, password, you know, some SD card information, things like that. Now if I want to change things like saturation, contrast, sharpness, brightness, white balance, exposure, field of view, metering, and flip the screen, I can do that there. Here's my field of view. This one actually does make some sense. It's just kind of cropping digitally, of course, as you can see there. The video at the beginning, I recorded those in the widest field of view possible. Alright, so let's take a look at my different resolutions. I have basically 1080 or 720, and I can choose 720 is 60 frames a second, and then I can change my bit rate. I don't know why I'd want it lower, but ooh, I lied. I've got 1080 60 frames a second on this guy, not just 30. So there is that, 30 or 60. Right. So those are my two options in terms of what I've got going there. But yeah, two similar cameras, similar apps, similar features, but I'm going to go ahead and give the edge to currently the Foxeer. I like the sensor on this one. The 4K capability is a little bit better, although it does kind of do some poor downsampling in 1080. Alright, first, the Box 2, 80 grams, and the RunCam, 72. So the RunCam is lighter, and that matters. Every gram counts when you're putting one of these things on a quad. They will both pretty much set pretty well on top of most. Quads kind of have spots designed for them, so you can do that. So let's go ahead and take a look at some footage of these guys on a drone. Now I did something a little bit different. I put these guys on my Phantom. Why? Well, because I'm carrying two cameras, and you know, why not? I had the Phantom with me. I thought we'll do something a little bit different. But yeah, obviously, most people use these things on their racers, which totally makes sense. And also, I've got a little test of the electronic image stabilization of this guy. So after I show you some footage of the two cameras on the drone, then we're going to take a look at how the image stabilization works on this Box 2. All right, so we're going to take a look at both of these cameras, and then we're going to split them apart, and we're going to talk about them individually. We've got the Foxeer on top and the RunCam on the bottom. If we look at them really quickly together, you'll notice the colors are a little bit different. I like the blues in the RunCam and the greens in the Foxeer. But otherwise, you know, when we get the full screen here, we can see a few things a little bit clearer. This is the RunCam. I'm seeing quite a bit of jello. I'm seeing a lot of fisheye, where you kind of have that rounding. Some people like that. I'm not a big fan. Now that red you see in the corners, that's not the camera. That's actually the mount that kind of got in the way. There is no image stabilization at all on this. So you kind of have to keep that in mind. Now I'm going to go ahead and switch on the audio if you want to hear what it sounds like with the motors. Here you go. So we started with the motor noise from the Foxeer as you heard the audio change. I don't like listening to my motors, so I generally turn them off. But some things you're going to see on this. Now, I thought I had image stabilization turned off. Turns out it was actually on because they have that backwards. I don't see quite as much fisheye, nor do I see any jello, or at least not as much jello. But at 1080, it does do some bad downsampling. It actually looks much better in 4K, which I generally don't like to shoot in 4K because of the size. Alright guys, this is the Foxeer Box Pro. We're recording in 4K, 30 frames a second. I'm using the microphone on it. And we're going to do an electronic image stabilization test. Now, I'm going to sit in this chair, walk the same route, so it's not going to be exactly the same, but you can kind of see how it does. Now, I have got it basically on a selfie stick, and that's what I'm going to use. Now, currently, electronic image stabilization is off, so let's see how it goes. Like my bright shirt. All right, let's do it. All right, so I'm going to pan it around. We're going to walk. You can see out here going down a step. All right, walking through the yard. All right, you can see the pond out there. We're going to walk out to the pond. Down the little trail. All right, we're going to walk a little bit. All right, now we're going up, down, left, right, tilt right, back to the middle, tilt left, back to the middle. All right, and we're gonna go back, and we're gonna see how this performed. Right, we'll see. Right now, 4K, 30 frames a second, and electronic image stabilization is currently off. So let's go back. We'll sit down in the chair. I'm gonna turn it on, and we'll see how that works. Okay, so back in the same spot, I turn the electronic image stabilization on, and let's take this for a walk, see how it does. All right, we're gonna go back, same route, going down a step here, through the yard, coming down to this little path. It should be a little bumpier right here, down the path. All right, we're gonna walk next to the pond, take a look. All right, so now I'm going up with the camera, down with the camera, right, left, back to the center. I'm gonna rotate it right, back to the center, rotate it left, back to the center, and now I'm going back. All right, so we'll see. I don't know how this is working, if it's working at all. Who knows? I do like this camera, right, in 4K. It does have some limitations in the lower resolution settings, which is kind of disappointing. Hopefully I've already talked about that. All right, guys, let's see how it did. So this is interesting, right? As you kind of compare the two videos, you'll notice that the one where I said the EIS was off was a little bit more stable. It also was cropped a little bit. That tells you that actually they got it backwards. The EIS, or electronic image stabilization, when you say it's turned off, it's actually working. And when you turn it on, it turns it off. So, you know, goofy, but hey, that's the way it is. Now, this is not rock steady. It is not, you know, going to replace a gimbal by any means. It is actually a very tiny amount of image stabilization, which is actually probably a good thing because then it's not cropping too much of your image. But, you know, hey, it's better than nothing. And I do like this camera in 4K. It's pretty crisp, good picture here as you see even as I walk around. All right, so a couple of things about field of view that I noticed in my testing. The RunCam had the widest field of view at 130 degrees. Then it will come down to 92, that 130 creating some serious fisheye. Whereas the Foxeer in photo mode, it's actually the widest at 123 degrees, but then it crops all the way down to 96 in 4K. So just some other things to think about when you're looking at these cameras. Okay, so which one of these guys should you buy? Really, I'm going to give the edge to the Box 2 over the 3S, but price matters, right? So, and because price matters, we have to factor that in, and really that's where the decision falls into your hands. The RunCam is only 99 bucks, right? That's a pretty good deal. Versus this guy, 130. Now, you know, you make that call, right? Which, you know, is this better at 100 bucks or is this? Or should you maybe look into the GoPro Session as a refurb? So I've seen the GoPro Hero 5 Session at about 150 bucks and then the Hero 4 Session at about 100. So, you know, I don't have experience with those two cameras. However, I have done some research and they are better. So, you know, there is that options, right? I know not everybody can get their hands on a GoPro. They are limited, and they're, you know, they're not going to be around forever because GoPro stopped making the sessions. And if you ask me, GoPro is going to stop making cameras in general because everyone can do it cheaper, and people like DJI do it just as well. So, you know, time will tell on that. Anyway, let me know what you think. Which one would you get? Or you going to go with the Session Refurb from Amazon? Anyway, I'll have links to all these things in the video description below. Leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Good luck and happy flying.